Okay, what I want you to do now as a little exercise to learn how to use these watercolors a little bit better is I want you to make 4 bookmarks. I'm going to call them landscape bookmarks, where you have some sort of a situation where you use wet on wet up in the sky. So up in the sky, you're going to use wet on wet by putting water down and dropping color. Here's grays and blues, here's purples, reds, yellows, all different colors, okay? Then down below is some painted little trees and evergreens or lakes and things like that. These are all night skies represented with stars, or there's snow, who knows. If you want to water down some white acrylic and flick it on there, go for it, have some fun. Here are some daytime ones where you've got a snow scene here with a little barn and an evergreen trees. Here's a windmill with a sunset, a summer scene, a spring scene, some dusk, etc. Okay? So to start off, you're going to take a piece of watercolor paper. So here's a piece of watercolor paper, and I cut it into 4 little strips. And I taped mine down, or I'm in the process of taping them down onto this green board. So I took it and I used a pair of scissors and I chopped it into little pieces. Mine are about, I don't know, 2 inches by the length of my hand. All right, so that's what I'm looking at here. And I'm taking masking tape. You may not have masking tape at home. I would not use Scotch tape with watercolor. You know, that clear invisible tape stuff that you use on Christmas presents. Do not use that. It won't work. It'll just tear your watercolor paper, and then you're going to get all frustrated. That probably worked fine for our acrylics that we did, but this being watercolor paper, paper tears when you pull tape off of it. So same with this situation. You do have to be really careful, but you're going to tape down some watercolor strips. If you don't have tape, just paint, okay? And know that it will curl up a little bit, and then as it dries, it will flatten back out. I like the white borders that it gives me when I use tape. So let me tape a little bit more here. Da-da-da. Okay, I gathered up some things from my kitchen that I'm going to use for special effects, okay, because it's fun. Anyway, yeah, good enough. Okay, that end one's not taped real well. So you make sure, if you do use tape, to rub down really good. And then you're going to do techniques called wet and wet and dry brushing. So you're going to take one area with your water and you're going to get it wet. Not super wet, just a little wet. And now I'm going to drop down some color. I'm going to put some blues in there. I'm going to put some reds in there. Ooh, that's nasty. That's like a red-orange. I'm going to put some purples in there. Let's put some more blues in there and mush it around. Okay? So that is a wet on wet technique that I used, and I'm letting it just run all over the place. This is table salt from my kitchen. I'm going to shake some out in my hand. Should have checked, my salt shaker's empty. And you're going to sprinkle it on your watercolor. Okay, so that's one technique you can do. As you notice, the watercolor is puddling all around the edges of the tape. You could take a paper towel and do some blotting. Get rid of some of that. Speed up the drying process. That looks like a comet or something. I could take my paper towel and blot at the bottom, and now I've got like snow, okay? And that's my sky. So that's something else I could do. Let's make one that's lighter. This time, let's not get it as wet. And let's pull some blues so that I get a cold winter sky. Notice I left some areas white. We're going to blot some more areas of white so that I have some clouds. Okay? So we'll make that one into a little summer scene. Let's try one with a sunset. Let's try not going wet on wet. Let's do where the sun is setting on the ground and then slowly moving up into oranges. And then into reds. And then, I love purple. Favorite color. A little more purple at the top. Okay, so there's another little landscape scene or sunset that we could have going on our paper. Let's put some greens down below so we can make this into like a little spring scene. And we'll make that into some land there. Let's try one with a lake. Let's try some blue. Let's try, ooh, that's looking cool. I love it how things play like that. And let's pull this blue all the way down. I don't have any gray. I do have some gray. I have some black. We'll put some icy gray in there, and we'll make that into an icy pond with little kids skating. Ooh, how fun. Okay, some other things that you could do is you could use saran wrap, plastic wrap out of your kitchen. I'm going to pull off a piece, and I'm going to lay it down here on this icy part. And I'm going to lay down my saran wrap and let that dry for a few minutes while I paint over here. This isn't quite dry. I really, now that I'm looking, I don't like that purple spot. Blot that off. Let's try getting it wet. Didn't remove the purple, it just removed everything else. There we go. That's a little better. Tone down some of these reds. Now remember, I put salt on that. I am out of salt. Anyway, you want very little salt. What the salt will do is the salt absorbs the moisture and the pigment, and it'll leave little snowflakes. Okay? This one is almost dry enough to paint a little scene. It's getting there. I'm going to set this one aside. I have another one that I started earlier today. Let's pull this one over. I worked on little trees. I took the tiniest little paintbrush, which I can't seem to find. Oh, it's on my palette. I took the tiniest little paintbrush and I used some greens and I used some browns. Okay. And I just dabbed a little triangular shape to come up with that. And then I used some blues to make a little road, okay, along the side. Let's zoom in. A little evergreen. Blades of grass would be longer up close, and they would be tinier in the distance. Let's do something like let's do a little mailbox. Okay, I don't know if I like my mailbox. Let that dry a little bit, and I'll put a little red flag on it. When that dries. I gotta go back. If I do it now and I paint a little red flag on there, it's just gonna run all over the place. Here's another one that I was doing. Let's put a little water feature in the front. Let's make a little blue-gray. Make a little pond. Okay, now I can't go in and put white in there. That won't work. I should have planned ahead with that and left little whites there along the side. Little weeds. It's a little too wet. I'm going to have to bounce back to that one. Here's one that I put some salt on. It's kind of, the salt is starting to work a little bit. And then I've got my snowy little land here. Let's put, I think we're going to have to go super dark with some trees on this one because you won't be able to see it. If I put green, evergreen trees. Okay, the sky turned out really pretty on this one, but I don't know if it's necessarily my favorite. To get my gray paint a little wet. Okay, and this one, I've got a piece of plastic hanging out over it. Let's take the plastic off and see what we got going. See the effects that it makes? I don't know what exactly I can do with that. I don't know. I'll have to come back to that one. But that's an effect that it makes. Maybe I shouldn't have put it over the entire thing. Let's go back to that other one. Because it is starting to dry. The first one that I just did under camera. Look at my salt is starting to work. This does look like a little winter scene. Little gray evergreens. Make them different heights. Let's put one here. Let's mix a little blue-gray together. Do another little road going through, or I guess you could call that a creek. Let's put some more blue in it. Got more of a creek going on that way. Okay, this tree in front needs a little bit more dark. But I think you're starting to get the point of what I want you to do here. This one we could add some little flowers, little trees, little leaves, okay? A field of flowers. You can go ahead and look at the examples that I put on there for you, and you could figure out different techniques, you know, or different ideas. Maybe I should paint a little house there or something like that. So I'm starting to get little trees. I don't ever use pure green. I do not ever use anything pure. Like I just let that red mix in with that green, and now I've got like a brown going on. Okay. This one, let's see, that looks like really good ice. Whoops, you didn't even see that under the camera. I ripped the plastic off down below, and now I've got like an icy blue, and I can make an ice rink and little kids skating or something like that. Okay. Going back, see, I've got a bunch that I do all the time, and then I just keep going. I just bounce back and forth, back and forth. I have some white acrylic paint that I just happen to have. I'm going to squirt some of this out on my watercolor palette, believe it or not. I'll clean it up later. And I'm going to add a little water to it. I'm very limited on space. So there's my white paint, and I'm going to add some water to it so I can make it kind of milky, a little thicker than milk. And put some snow on that guy. Okay, so he's got some snowflakes going on. Let's paint some on there too. Put some on the tree. And put some down here. Not really showing up. Got to do some experimenting. Okay? I want you to create 4 little bookmarks and photograph what you got. You're going to have some good, some bad, some you love, some you don't. And you do have to bounce around, you know? Going back to this little mailbox again. I think it's dry by now. I'm going to pull a little bit of red and do my little red flag on my mailbox. Okay? So you have some fun with this, and don't worry about it. Show me techniques of washes where you have colors that run together. Show me some dry brushing where you have detail work. Show me some variegated washes where they change in color. Show me some graded washes where things play around, you know, with this. And some of these will be good and some will be bad, and that's okay. Show me what you got.